Living on the streets, Elon Musk's harsh reality check. Most people recognize Elon Musk as a billionaire, an innovator, the man behind Tesla and SpaceX. But for 1 week, he gave it all up, his wealth, his name, his influence, to live as a homeless man. Not as an experiment, not for publicity, but to understand a question that had haunted him for years. How does it feel to have nothing? He left his mansion in Los Angeles, changed into second-hand clothes, and stepped onto the streets with only a few dollars in his pocket. He had no credit cards, no contacts, no one who recognized him. The first thing he learned was that the world moved fast. Too fast for people like him now. The man who had built rockets, electric cars, and artificial intelligence was now invisible. Day 1. The first taste of struggle. The first day, hunger gnawed at him. He asked for change, but people walked past as if he weren't there. He tried to find work, but who would hire someone with no address, no ID, and no clean clothes? By evening, he stood in line at a soup kitchen. The smell of warm food filled the air, but the weight of silent despair among the people waiting was even stronger. Men and women who had once had jobs, homes, and families now sat with empty eyes, staring at nothing. It wasn't just food they had lost, it was hope. That night, he slept on a bench, pulling his thin coat tighter as the cold bit at his skin. He watched people pass, wrapped in warm coats, carrying shopping bags filled with things they didn't need. For the first time in years, he felt powerless. The wind howled through the streets, carrying with it the distant sound of laughter from restaurants and bars, places he once frequented. The concrete beneath him was unyielding, and no matter how tightly he curled up, he couldn't escape the biting chill. He closed his eyes, trying to ignore the ache in his stomach and the feeling of complete isolation. Day 3. The harsh reality of kindness. By the third day, exhaustion set in. His stomach ached, his body felt weak, and his mind started to fog. He stood outside a cafe, watching people come and go, hoping someone might spare a dollar or even a moment of kindness. A businessman walked past, his phone pressed to his ear. "Get a job," he muttered without even looking at him. Elon lowered his head, swallowing the shame rising in his throat. Then, a little girl tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, why is he sitting there?" Her mother hesitated, then knelt beside him. "Are you hungry?" He nodded, and just like that, she handed him a sandwich. That moment stayed with him. It wasn't the food that moved him. It was the acknowledgement that he was still a person, that he wasn't invisible. As he ate, he watched the little girl walk away, holding her mother's hand. He wondered what kind of world she would grow up in, one where people helped each other, or one where kindness was the exception rather than the rule. Day 5. The breaking point. By the 5th night, his body ached from sleeping on concrete. The cold seeped through his thin clothes. He stared at the city skyline in the distance. The bright lights of Tesla's headquarters barely visible. It was cruel irony. His empire stood tall, while he, its creator, lay forgotten on the streets. Then came the worst moment. A group of young men passed by, their laughter cutting through the night air. One of them noticed him. "Hey, look at this guy. Think he used to be important." The others laughed. A beer bottle shattered at his feet. More laughter. He didn't move. He didn't fight back. He just let the moment pass, knowing that in their eyes, he was nothing. For the first time in decades, he truly felt what it was like to have no power at all. Later that night, he wandered through an alley, searching for a safer place to sleep. He found a group of homeless men huddled around a makeshift fire. They looked at him, assessing whether he was a threat or one of them. "You new here?" one of them asked. He nodded. "You got anything to trade?" Elon hesitated before shaking his head. "No." The man sighed and scooted over. "Then sit down. Fire's free." For the first time in days, he felt warmth, not just from the fire, but from the presence of others who understood his pain. They shared their stories, their losses, their regrets. He listened, absorbing the reality of lives so different from his own, yet so deeply human. Day 7. The final lesson. By the 7th day, he had reached his limit. He returned home, stepping into his mansion, the warmth and luxury almost foreign to him now. He stood in front of a mirror and really looked at himself. Something had changed. He had walked into this experience thinking he understood struggle, that he could fix homelessness with money, technology, or policies. But now he knew the truth. It wasn't about wealth. It was about humanity. That night, he sat down with his team and made a decision. Tesla would fund a nationwide program to help the homeless get back on their feet. Not just donations, but real solutions, jobs, housing, training. Not charity, but dignity. He remembered the faces of those he had met. The mother in the soup kitchen, the little girl with the sandwich, the men around the fire. They weren't just statistics. They were people, each with a story, each deserving of a second chance. The message homelessness isn't just about money. It's about being seen. A smile, a kind word, a moment of acknowledgement can mean everything. If this story moved you, take a second to help someone in need. And if you want more stories that make you think, subscribe, leave a comment, and share this video. Together, we can change the world, one act of kindness at a time.